And ultimately we were convicted of mutiny, and I did a total of 1.5 years in prison. One of my greatest regrets really is that when I was in Leavenworth Penitentiary, my job, you know, I was at that time, I was a medic. I was also an LPN. I was a licensed practical nurse, because my military training was enough that I had been able to write the state boards in Washington State for that. So my job in the prison was working in the prison clinic. And 5 days a week we'd get new prisoners in, and as part of the processing into the prison, they would bring the prisoners over to the prison clinic, and the guards would bring them over and just drop them off, and they could lock the door, and the guards wouldn't even stay with them, you know, just leave. And you know, I had several different responsibilities, but we would basically, you know, we'd have them fill out a healthcare questionnaire, we'd do an x-ray to see if they had TB, you know, we'd draw a little bit of blood for a lab specimen, and then the doctor would do a physical exam. So it was like several steps in the thing. We had tons of time to do it, you know, because nothing in a prison really goes very fast. And so the first thing they'd do is they'd sit in this little classroom, kind of on these little teeny school desks that were way too small for them, and fill out their health questionnaire. And so I would tell them what they had to do, and then, but every day I'd say, well, are there any political prisoners here today? And inevitably there'd be 2 or 3 guys, or sometimes more, you know, but there's always some, who were showing up on a daily basis who consider themselves political prisoners. And these were guys who, they'd killed their own commander in Vietnam, or they had been publishing a newspaper and got caught doing it, or, because by then the GI movement was really starting to take off. And because by now it's 1969, and you know, the shit was hitting the fan in the United States, and the GI movement was getting really strong. And repeatedly, in many ways, in many places all over the world, people were finding ways to resist, and some of them suffered the consequences and ended up coming to Leavenworth. And when they did, I would ask them, and my great regret is that I didn't write any of that down. If I had only spent that time writing down those stories, because those were the legacy of you know, it's not that often that, certainly in the United States history, that soldiers choose uniform, choose conscience over uniform. And here it was, a steady stream of guys who had chosen conscience in some form or another over uniform, where they all consider themselves part of the movement, and political prisoners.